this again. Alright, I decided to make another video about the DWX. Basically just concentrating on the lower part of the gun and going through this with a little more detail and perhaps some better video so you can see. These are the tools that I think you probably want. 15 Torx bit, a punch, a flat screwdriver, the tool that comes with the gun, and another smaller punch like a 1/16 punch. And so, of course, take the slide off, take the grips off. These are the same screws as a traditional 1911, by the way. So that's something that people might not know. And so if you're looking to replace them, that's 1911 grips. Anyway, with the hammer down, take a punch and take out this retaining pin for the mainspring housing. It is straight with a head on it. There should be little to no tension here. Take the mainspring housing off. It's its own thing. It's aluminum. I'll show how to disassemble it real quick here in a second. Basically use some kind of punch to drive the smaller pin out. In this case, I think I have a 1/16 punch, and then I'm using this tool from Mechanic, and that comes out real easy. You see it drop on the table there. Mainspring springs could be used from a typical 1911. That spring also has a flange head on it, so it goes one direction. I just kind of show it real quick here and put it back together. You could swap in different mainspring spring weights if you desire. There, I dropped the pin on the table because of course I do. But anyway, depress that plunger far enough down and slide that pin back in. Voila, you are done. Nothing really more to talk about there. Next, we're going to take out the sear spring. I'm trying to show there where the position of that is. You need it on top of and behind the sear and the disconnector. It'll be important later. Here, I'm going to try to show you how to take the safeties off. They have to have the hammer cocked, and you lift them up into somewhere between on and off and wiggle them out. I am putting my hand here to demonstrate that you may lose this detent pin flying across the room, so best to cup the back of the gun so as not to lose it. There is a very small tube that is connecting everything here. It holds the frame of the gun to the grip frame, and it holds the two safeties together here that I'm going to demonstrate. So in this video, I'm going to leave that together like that just so we remember how it goes. Of course, a nice little magnetic tray is great. Here is the hammer pin, and you can see that it has a flange on it, and then there's a slight groove in the end. Here's the hammer and the strut. This is some Evolution Gunworks Atlas parts that I have here, but yours will look the same basically. Now you can lift the chassis out of this gun. I kind of called it a frame earlier, but you can lift the chassis out. I'm going to take the disconnector and the sear out of this. Again, I'm using this little 1/16 inch punch here. And again, you have a pin, a flanged head. Make sure you keep track of all these parts. Probably best to put it in your little magnet tray. I will take this out and show you kind of the orientation of these pieces. Again, these are more Atlas Evolution Gunworks parts, but yours in your stock gun will look pretty much the same. And I just kind of show you this. I do believe you can remove the ejector there, but anyway, I'm not going to show that here. I'm not trying to take that apart. Line that back up, put your pin back in there. This is a directional situation. All these pins are directional, they go one way. So as I show it here is the correct way, so from left to right as you're looking at the gun, as you're facing down range. Anyway, there's that. That's taken care of. I'm going to pull the trigger, shoe, and bow out here. There are little tabs. If you buy another trigger from CZ USA, there's these little tabs here, and you can bend those out and adjust how much forward travel the trigger is going to have. I also inserted this finely threaded screw here. I believe it's a 440, it might be a 632. Anyway, I put that in there. That comes into contact with the mag release and adjusts how far the trigger will travel backwards. So you could add something like that with a small set screw if you so desire. Here I'm going to take out the mag release. You need a fine tip flathead screwdriver. You rotate this thing like about a quarter turn to the left, as we were seeing it there. I take it apart and show the spring and the little keeper piece here. I don't know what to call that. I put my own, it's from Taylor Freelance, but I put my own mag release button thing on here. Drilled and tapped it, you know, monkey in the garage style. Filed it a little bit and made it work. I've seen some really nice ones that people have done with Shadow 2 mag release buttons. But this is what I had laying around, and I'm an impatient person, so I just did it myself. Anyway, slide that back into the gun. It should go right in there. For some reason, I find it fiddly half the time, and then I kind of muck this up. But again, you're going to depress the safety just slightly, and then give it about a quarter turn clockwise or to the right. And it should lock in. Again, I mess it up here, but eventually I get it worked out. And your mag release should be back in the gun. And, you know, test that out for function. No problem. Great. Perfect. Even without your little button on there, it will look the same. At this point, you can go ahead and start putting the gun back together. This is like basically the whole gun apart. And now I'm going to go back to the gun together. Make sure when you put your trigger shoe back in there, it moves freely. I polished mine up a bunch, and as you can see the shiny part on the top there, you will have to fit that very likely to have smooth function underneath this chassis when it's put in there. As it comes, it is very tight, and the trigger, if you take your stock trigger out, you'll see that it's fitted. You'll have to fit yours. Anyway, put your chassis back in there. Then start to reassemble the rest of the gun. Go ahead and put that strut and hammer in there. Make sure you get the strut on the outside of the frame. Don't slip it on the inside of the mag well. There, the mag part of the grip frame. So you have to take it back apart. And line that back up. Make sure when you put this hammer pin back in there that the little groove section is going towards the right side of the gun as you hold it, and it should go right back in there. No problem. That is what is going to retain your right hand safety, and so make sure that is in there correctly. I think I'll slip the little tube back in there, and then here's your right hand safety that has a little keyway type cut in it so that it will slide onto that notch in that pin. So make sure you put it the right way. Here's your detent for your safety. Make sure you put that in there. In a second, this is where your tool is going to show up that came with your gun, the 10-8 performance tool, and it is perfectly suited for this so you don't shoot your detent across the room. Make sure your safeties are kind of lined up in that halfway on position. They'll pop right in there. Make sure you check your safety. It'll be easier to check here in a second. I go ahead and let the hammer drop by tipping the gun upside down and letting gravity help me out. Here's your sear spring. Again, make sure you get all the little arms of that sear spring on the correct sides of the sear and the disconnect there. You can put them under it and cause the gun not to function really, and the hammer not to function. So it's very difficult, nigh impossible for me to show this on camera, but there I have it on the wrong side, and I pull it out and put it back in, and I've got it on the correct side, which is closer to the camera view there. And as you slide this mainspring housing back on here, my suggestion is to get it on about a quarter of the way and then hold the gun with the grip like I'm showing it here. That will allow the hammer strut to fall into the mainspring groove there. Again, this spring is flanged, and this is the correct installation direction. It will sit flush with the grip frame. If you put it in wrong, it mostly goes in there. Check, you should have a half cock and a full cock position. Don't go slamming your hammer down on your frame just because it's bad etiquette here. I'm going to check my hammer for function. I'm holding my finger there, so if something doesn't work, then it doesn't smash into the frame and it smashes my finger instead. So that's all great, looks good. We're almost done here. Hopefully some of the closer shots here allowed you to see how it goes together. There isn't an exact series of steps that you have to take. You could do this differently. This is probably about the best way to do it, but it doesn't have to be exactly like this. But you can see how it goes together and comes apart, and I think that's what's important for people. I think at the end here, maybe I'll throw in a couple extra close-up shots again of the pieces that come out of the gun. I'm not covering the top end of the gun just because I don't feel that that's really that there's a lot there, and I think when people are messing with this gun and taking it apart, probably the bottom end is where most of their efforts are going to lie and where they're going to want some further information. Anyway, this is a very low energy video. I hope you have got whatever you need from this. If you are taking your gun apart and putting it back together or changing something, you can see how it works, how the parts are supposed to fit together. Here's my gun back together. Any questions, feel free to ask them in this video in the comment section. Hopefully you will like and subscribe to my channel. There is a super sweet ass DWX. Enjoyed that.